Goodness me, it's cold today. It is 0 degrees out here in the Surrey Hills, and today marks the final time I'm going to test ride my Honda XR600 before it gets shipped off to Sandraiders to take part in a Moroccan desert challenge. For those that don't know, Sandraiders is a recreation of the original Dakar rally, essentially. It's a multi-stage event, it's non-competitive, over several days in the blazing Saharan dunes and sunshine, and that seems a pretty far removed place right now from where I'm standing here on this cold winter's day. So the event has to be entered by pre-2000 models bikes, and it's that crucial qualifying criteria that makes it really the challenge that it is and adds to that sense of reward that previous participants talk about. But I thought this was a good opportunity to tell you guys about my journey so far, so you can be the third wheel in my love story, my ode to this bike, because if the event itself is anything like as rewarding and as enjoyable as the journey I've had, just simply getting this bike to a point where I'm tentatively, cautiously optimistic that it can get through such an event, then it's going to be an absolute blast. So here's the end point where Sandraiders liked it enough to share it, which was quite a compliment. But how do we get there? Well, having a friend that had an XR600R was a big benefit because he's able to advise me on a lot of the pitfalls and things to look for. But this bike just struck a chord with me. There's a lot to choose from with Sandraiders. It's one of the more popular bikes, but there's not too many out there. But this, Scott Summers back in the day, just being a legend, I wanted that to be me. And I found this listing online. It had been there for a while, and it just struck the right balance. It was a bike that basically was a bit rough around the edges, clearly wasn't getting the love and attention it needed, but fundamentally still had lots of the original parts and appeared to be in good enough working order. I had the owner send me a couple of videos of starting it and so on, and that was right. That was what I wanted, something that I could make my own, that didn't matter if consumables needed replacing, but fundamentally at its core was a sort of sound enough bet that it wasn't going to cause me untold amounts of misery. And here it is on the collection day, looking quite sorry for itself, and yeah, definitely in need of some love. But here it is back at the warehouse. This is the exact same bike on the same day, just with the picture that I took. And doesn't it just go to show what a difference a picture can make? If that had been the picture in the listing, I think it would have sold a long way before. And but it didn't. It was dirty. They were badly taking pictures, and in a way I'm grateful that that was the case. Right, so it's effectively day one of the adventure that is going to be getting this thing shipshape. So I brought it, of course, to Mr. Vanoni.
I've got a manual.
He's got the book, so don't go wrong. So the first issue we've encountered is the carburetors and fuel, which hopefully is not too complex, but yeah, if we can fix that, then I can actually ride the thing and then figure out what else we need to focus on. So we've got some tyres and a carb inspection today, and we will go from there.
This preparation is like what people don't do, and then they go like, oh, it leaks. Like, yeah, we cleaned it.
And we did clean it, and this took a few different rebuilds of this carb, and it was quite a stubborn problem, this fuel leak. Here's Max resorting to violence, trying to get this tyre off with an angle grinder because it was having none of it with the pneumatic machine. I think this tyre was literally set in stone, and yeah, definitely benefited from being replaced. And if you want some lols, here's an idiot that doesn't know how to own one of these bikes at this stage. Watch me try and crack that throttle wide open as I kick it. No idea how the Honda technique is supposed to work at this stage. I'm amazed it actually started at all, but look at that shit-eating grin. I'm so pleased with myself. And I think every time I kickstart the bike, I get that same sensation. I love the feeling of kickstarting a machine. And here we're trying to adjust the air fuel screw to get the right mix, and also with the idle speed, just trying to balance everything. But it took a while for me to work out that actually the bike just doesn't like being cold, and it's not a good time to try and adjust those things because it keeps cutting out when it is cold. And here it is back home with the kids playing with it in the garden. I was just really happy I was able to get it into the back garden so I can actually work on it.
Heidi, do you want to go like that?
Bless her. I mean, that exhaust did sound pretty horrible, to be fair, and definitely needed replacement. I think the packing had gone. But here we have, again, same bike, We've just had the tyres fitted, nothing else, and look at the difference again with a clean bike, taking the old sticker off because it was pretty manky. Again, just a lesson to just clean your bike and take good pictures of it if you want to sell it. But here's the first major instalment at the workshop. So we did oil change, basically sort of service. We did oil change, filter change, chains, sprockets, put some new pegs on, the new exhaust from Arrow, which is absolutely delicious, and we tried to fit the new Turbis tank for long range capacity, and this tank was leaking straight from the start, straight out of one of the bolt holes, which was really annoying, and took a Turbis 6 months for a replacement to be available. So that was a bit frustrating. So no sooner was it on, I had to take it back off after I noticed it leaking into the garden a few days later. But yeah, putting everything back together, it kind of went smoothly. I just wanted to get the bike basically workable so I could actually go and test it off-road with a few of the sort of basic but important bolt-on mods that I was planning on using. And there it is, looking pretty good. So tomorrow is the day to test this beast out. And picked it up having had the valve clearances, checked and adjusted, and all seemed really good until I got home and it was absolutely vomiting fuel from the drain, not even the overflow. So taking the carb off, ridden back to the shop. This will be very fortuitous if it all comes together in time, because it's not looking good for tomorrow. So the bikes have made it through the first half an hour on road without blowing up to pieces.
Here we are with our first technical of the day.
But yeah, so my exhaust bolt decided to bolt for it. The hair in my exhaust seems to be growing. Never seen a bike look so good dirty. I really do think that. It's very fetching. Given the masses of fuel that was leaking out of it just moments before departing, its first outing was a bit of a triumph, save for the exhaust falling off a few times. And I was really pleased to get it back home. I found myself just staring at it in the garden as I'm lying in the sun. It's really sad. I'm starting to develop quite a bond with this bike. The kids are starting to ask questions. It's really nice to sort of have them come out and help me tinker on it. So it was in for full suspension rebuild at Evotech Performance. They didn't want me filming in there, so I don't have much content from it. But the difference that the suspension made is astonishing. So anybody wanting to buy an old bike, get the suspension done. Don't even think about it. Build it into the price, into your budget. You have to do that. So back on with the old original tank, and it looked pretty sun damaged. I tried bleaching it with some chemicals. It was a bit unsuccessful, and then I found this cover on eBay that was a very expensive, lazy solution to the problem, and as you can see, it's sort of okay from some angles.
I'll say I'm not that impressed.
Works at a glance, and was interesting to try and sort of push the problem down the road, so I will treat that tank at some point. I just haven't got around to it yet. Oh well, it's an expensive scuff guard. There we have it fitted, and yeah, all kind of come together quite nicely. So overall looks pretty good at a glance.
And you kind of don't come round the front too much.
This is me getting annoyed about the pegs basically. So this left peg has taken so much abuse from drops over the years that it's bent way out of shape and position. Your legs are at different heights, and it just feels really weird. So not an easy fix, and in the end my technique was to heat it with a heat gun and whack it really hard with a mallet, and you know what, it worked perfectly. It's pretty rugged. As long as I can fix up a way of having like a charger bank attached somewhere here, I can just hook it in. I don't need to power it up. That should keep it going. So that's me getting it ready for a Rally Moto 250 kilometer off-road day, which is a big test. So we're nearly there on 144 kilometers, and we have a mixture of petrol and oil and water going on down there. This is alright, isn't it? So yeah, it went really well. That small oil leak really the only sort of major problem. So I decided to push things as far as I could, and I took it to a motocross track. I turned up on the bike with my number plate on. I took on all the other motocross bikes. Here's a two-stroke going around the inside of. And this thing, I gave it so much abuse. And it was amazing. It was so much fun as well. But this thing, when you really get on it, is unbelievably capable for an old boy. Suspension was more than happy with all the big jumps and bumps, and the brakes were taking an absolute beating as I slammed it into corners. It was just such a fun day. Here it is back in. Tell me that's the best engine you've ever seen. Precision, performance, power. So here we're basically trying to tackle the small omnipresent oil leak from the lower part of the engine, and it's a big job. It requires the whole thing to come out. So we need to get this bit off and then this bit off to get this bit. This is the main bit we're trying to solve, right? This gasket.
And we'll have to take that bit off
and then that
to get that bit off.
Oh god. So there it is, bleeding out on the table. We noticed this sprocket, I think this is the oil pump sprocket or something like that. This was broken, so that was in need of replacement. So it's a good job to take these things apart and check them. That is one powerful piston. Following that, I did the tail tidy, and here's Max helping with the electrics because I'm no good with those. Yeah, so I didn't actually film that bit, but having unsuccessfully tried to solve the oil leak with the engine out, it actually created a big oil leak in the top gasket, which then needed a new gasket kit coming and redoing. So here we have us on our final ride, looking triumphant, feeling like victors, having got through the process, and then this happened. So frustrating turn of events. As soon as I left our little ride out today, my clutch cable snapped. But better now than in the desert in Morocco on day one, I guess. That's very nice, Fred. Nice and greasy.
Nice and greased up.
Look at that. Lovely. And luckily it happened just about 100 metres away from off the curb in Dorking. And they also are literally 200 metres away from Venhill, who are a specialist that make brake cables and clutch cables. And they had one Honda XR cable in stock. So fingers crossed this will be the easiest possible resolution to a situation that could have been quite frustrating. So there we have some of the highlights of the trials and tribulations of my journey over the past year with my XR600R. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's not been without its hiccups. It's been very stressful at a lot of times with leaks galore just before big events, but it's got there in the end. It's just been the most wonderful bike to ride. I just never would have thought I would grow such a strong attachment to it. And that's partly because it's forced me into grappling with the mechanics of bikes and understanding these things myself, which is something I've always been fairly reluctant to do. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. It sort of got me kicking and screaming into understanding some of these things. I'm really enjoying that journey. I'm really enjoying the network of people that I've connected with who have a similar passion for bikes, but old bikes, restoring them to former glories or even improving them past the way that they were ever designed in the first place. And it'll be a wonderful event to be at with so many like-minded individuals. So that's it for now. The next thing I do will be just fitting some brake pads to the bike, and then pretty much it's all ready to go. I'm toying with the idea of handguards. Everyone else has them. I just can't bring myself to remove the stock original factory ones because they look so cool. But we all make these decisions, we stand by them. So that'll be my one, the hill that I die on, originality. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos of the adventure riding world, gear and beyond in the channel over the upcoming weeks. We've got some really exciting stuff happening. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.